Lane. A rubber mask, a spinning panel of corrugated metal, and a voice that shouldn't have been there. On the night of November 22, 1987, someone hijacked a television signal in Chicago. Not a cable feed, not a closed circuit, a live broadcast, mid-transmission, watched by hundreds of thousands of people. The FCC launched an immediate investigation. They never found who did it. It happened twice in one night. The first intrusion lasted less than 30 seconds during the 9 o'clock news on WGN-TV. The second, 90 minutes later, cut into a Doctor Who episode on WTTW Channel 11. Both times the same figure appeared. Someone wearing a Max Headroom mask, standing against a rotating sheet of corrugated metal meant to mimic the character's digital background. Chicago in 1987 was a city of rooftop antennas and analog signals. The broadcasts were unencrypted, but overpowering a transmitter's signal required serious equipment and precise aim. This wasn't a prank anyone could pull off from a basement. Then something changed. The first hijacking hit WGN at 9:14 p.m. News anchor Dan Roan was reading highlights from the Bears game. The screen cut to static, then resolved into the figure. The mask bobbed. The person behind it said nothing intelligible, just distorted buzzing. Engineers at WGN reacted within seconds, switching their transmission link to a backup frequency. The signal was gone in under 30 seconds. Most viewers thought their televisions had glitched. 90 minutes later, it happened again. This time the target was WTTW, a PBS affiliate. The figure reappeared. This time there was audio. A distorted voice rambled about Chuck Swirsky, a local sportscaster. The person held up a Pepsi can, dropped it, pulled on gloves. They hummed the Clutch Cargo theme song. The transmission grew stranger. Someone bent over, pants pulled down, being struck with a fly swatter by an unidentified accomplice. It lasted nearly 90 seconds before cutting back to Doctor Who. WTTW had no engineer on duty that night. Nobody could stop it. The FCC described the broadcast signal intrusion as a federal crime carrying a $100,000 fine and a year in prison. They brought in engineers from across the Midwest to analyze the signal. They knew the hijacker had to be physically close to the WTTW transmitter on the John Hancock Center, within line of sight, likely on a rooftop, with a high-powered transmitter aimed directly at the tower's receiving dish. The equipment alone would have cost tens of thousands of dollars. Families who had been watching a quiet Sunday evening of television called the station, confused and disturbed. Parents couldn't explain what their children had just seen. But here's what nobody talked about at the time. The hijacker had already failed once that night. WGN's engineers killed the signal almost instantly. A normal person would have stopped. Instead, they waited 90 minutes, repositioned their equipment, chose a weaker target with no on-duty engineer, and struck again. This wasn't impulsive. This was methodical. The FCC investigation ran for months. Some investigators believed it was the work of disgruntled broadcast engineers, people with access to the right equipment and the technical knowledge to aim a signal at a specific transmitter. Chicago had a large community of electronics hobbyists and pirate radio operators in the 1980s. The skill set existed, but no one came forward and no equipment was ever recovered. Others have argued it was connected to the local punk and hacker scene. The absurdist humor, the Clutch Cargo reference, the deliberate obscenity, all pointed to someone making a countercultural statement against mainstream broadcasting. And yet no group ever claimed responsibility. In a scene that thrived on notoriety, silence was unusual. The official report concluded that without a confession or recovered equipment, identification was impossible. The analog signal left no digital fingerprint, no IP address, no metadata, just radio waves, already dissolved into the atmosphere. And then came something nobody expected. In 2010, a Reddit user claimed to know the identities of the hijackers. Allegedly 2 brothers from a Chicago hacking group, one of whom had since died. The claim was never verified. The FCC confirmed the case remained open. No arrest has ever been made. What the Max Headroom hijacking revealed was not just a gap in broadcast security, It demonstrated that the entire infrastructure of American television, the signals entering millions of homes every night, could be commandeered by anyone with enough knowledge and enough audacity. Within months, stations across the country began encrypting their uplinks and hardening their transmitter facilities. The vulnerability had always existed. It took a rubber mask and a fly swatter to prove it. The FCC statute of limitations has long since expired. Whoever stood behind that mask will never face prosecution, even if identified tomorrow. They carried out one of the only successful broadcast signal intrusions in American history, on a night when hundreds of thousands of people were watching and vanished without a trace. More than 3 decades of investigation have produced no answers. A distorted voice, a corrugated metal backdrop spinning in the dark. 90 seconds of chaos broadcast into living rooms across Chicago. The Max Headroom hijacking remains the most infamous unsolved crime in television history. Someone built the equipment, aimed the signal, and pulled it off twice in a single night. Who has the means to hijack a city's airwaves and the discipline to never speak of it again? The Unsolved Vault. New cases every week.